Story 1. My brother came back from a solo hike. He's not the one who came home. He was only gone for 2 days. Said he needed to clear his head, so he packed light and headed up into the Uintas with his usual gear. No big deal. He's done it before. But this time, when he came back, something wasn't right. It started with how he walked in. No greeting. No, I'm back. Just opened the door, set his pack down, and stood in the kitchen like he forgot why he was there. I was at the table, mid-bite. He looked at me and smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. Good trip? I asked. He nodded. Still smiling. That smile didn't fade once the whole night. Not when he told me about the mountain lion tracks near his campsite. Not when I noticed he was wearing my sweatshirt, the one he usually complains about. Not even when I asked what trail he took and he said, North Ridge. There is no North Ridge. Not here. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about how he moved felt unnatural. Too smooth. Too practiced. At one point, I got up to check the locks and caught a glimpse of him in the hallway mirror. He was just standing in the dark, staring at it. Not at his reflection. At the space beside it. The next morning, I found a bird on the porch. Not hurt, just placed there neatly, like a strange little offering. He said he didn't put it there. Then he asked if I remembered when our mom passed away. The thing is, she's still alive. I waited until he went out back. He said he wanted to feel the sun, but just stood in the middle of the yard, arms hanging loosely, face tilted upward like he was trying to remember what warmth even was. That gave me maybe 10 minutes. I went straight for his pack. It looked normal at first, his knife, half-used water bladder, trail snacks he hadn't touched. But when I unzipped the bottom pouch, I found something he would have never brought home. A lock of hair. Tied with red thread. Dry. Brittle. Not his color. Not mine. It looked old, like it had been stored away for years. Underneath it was a scrap of parchment. Something drawn in charcoal, rough circles tangled with jagged lines, stick figures twisted around a central shape. I didn't recognize the symbol. But the longer I stared, the more familiar it felt. When I turned it over, a single word was scrawled in the corner in tiny, frantic handwriting. Return. I barely had time to zip the pack shut before I heard the back door open. He stepped inside, eyes still fixed on the ceiling like something might be moving just above it. You been in my bag? He asked calmly. I lied. Said no. He smiled. That smile again. It stayed frozen while he poured himself a glass of water, drank it too fast, then poured another. His throat made no sound as he swallowed. Later that night, I woke up to him humming. A tune we used to sing as kids, only half the melody was twisted. Notes out of place. Words that didn't rhyme anymore. And when I peeked down the hallway, I saw him standing at my bedroom door. Back turned. Not moving. Just listening. He didn't say anything when I asked what he was doing. He just walked away. In the morning, he was already at the kitchen table when I got up. No coffee. Just sitting. He looked at me with that too wide smile and said, "Why'd you lie, little brother?" He asked why I lied. I didn't answer. I just stood there, heart pounding behind my ribs, wondering how long he'd known. If he saw me go through the pack. If he'd ever really turned his back at all. He didn't push the question. Just smiled again and went back to quietly staring at the table. Later, he left again. No word. No jacket. Just walked out into the woods and disappeared like he was always meant to be there. This time, I didn't go through the pack. I waited. And after midnight, he came back. His hands were covered in dirt. Shirt torn. No injuries, just wrong. Like it wasn't made for him anymore. Like his limbs had grown too long under the fabric. He didn't speak. Just passed me without a glance and went straight to the basement. That's when I heard it. Knocking. But not from the door. From inside the pack. Slow. Damp. Rhythmic. Like something soft tapping against plastic from the inside. I opened it. The first thing I saw was the hair again, matted now, damp with something thick and dark. Beneath it was something bundled in a torn gray cloth. I should have left it alone. But I didn't. I reached in and pulled it out. It was a jar. Sealed with wax and twine. Inside was a mouth. Not a full face, just the mouth, twisted in a frozen scream. Gums pulled tight, lips sewn shut with rough thread. But it was moving. The glass fogged up with each breath. It was trying to speak. Then I saw it. It looked like mine. I dropped the jar. It didn't break. Just rolled to the edge of the floor and settled there, vibrating softly. Then from the basement, his voice called up. Only it wasn't really his. It was mine. Low. Hollow. Like someone trying to mimic it for the first time. Why'd you go through my things, little brother? I didn't answer. I was too focused on the jar. It was smiling now. Story 2. I think the goat man lived in our house for months. We just didn't notice. We used to joke about the creaking in the attic. Old house. Bad beams. Maybe squirrels. But now I wonder if it was never in the attic at all. Maybe it was already inside. It started with the smell. Musky. Like wet fur and rusted metal. It would come and go, sometimes stronger in the hallway, sometimes in the laundry room. My dad blamed the water heater. Mom said it was the old pipes. But it wasn't. Then came the sounds. Soft hooves on tile. Always just after 3 a.m. I thought it was the dog at first. But she refused to go near the hallway at night. Would just stand at the edge, tail low, quietly whining. Then I started seeing him. Just little flashes. Reflections in the mirror. A silhouette at the edge of my bedroom door. Something tall. Misaligned. Like a man, almost. But too still. Too quiet. My brother laughed it off, called it sleep paralysis. Until the night I found him standing in the garage. Barefoot. Staring at the wall. I asked what he was doing. He didn't turn around. Just said, "He's almost done." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, my brother's been different. He repeats himself. Forgets simple words. Stares at the microwave like it's saying something back. Last night, he asked me how long he's lived here. He was born in that room. Tonight, I found hoof prints in the basement dust. They came from inside the furnace. And they didn't go anywhere else. The furnace wasn't running. Hadn't been in hours. But the metal surface was warm when I touched it. The hoof prints, small, cloven, too defined to be from dust alone, trailed out from the vents and across the concrete floor, circling once, twice, then stopping right in front of the wall behind the breaker box. They didn't return the way they came. I don't know why I did it. Curiosity, maybe. Or something deeper. Like some part of me already knew what I'd find. I moved the breaker panel aside. There was a crack in the concrete. Not a random one, this was deliberate. Clean. About a foot wide. Black as tar inside. I crouched down and pointed my phone light into it. There were more prints. Leading down. Into the dark. I should have stopped there. But I didn't. I wedged my fingers into the gap, braced myself, and pulled. The wall shifted with a low groan, dust pouring out like dry ash. A panel swung open. Behind it was a tunnel. Narrow. Damp. Veined with roots and hollowed like something had clawed through the very foundation. The air smelled of fur and heat. I stepped in. The walls were soft in places. Almost breathing. The deeper I went, the hotter it became. My phone light flickered, twice, then steadied. The tracks changed too, got bigger. Heavier. No longer just steps, now there were drag marks too, like something had started crawling. Then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Not nearby. But massive. Wet. Guttural. Like lungs struggling to contain something that didn't belong. I should have turned around. But up ahead. I saw light. Flickering orange light danced across the rough dirt and stone. I crept closer, heart pounding, each step sinking into the ground that felt too warm. Too soft. The tunnel opened into a chamber. And in the middle of it, my brother. He was kneeling, his back to me. Bare. Motionless. His skin was covered in strange markings, some looked like carvings, others like burns. His arms were outstretched toward the wall. They trembled. But the wall. It wasn't a wall at all. It was a shape. Enormous. Pressed into the dirt. A horned figure, limbs too long, mouth too wide. Curled up like something folded in on itself, waiting. It looked like it was sleeping. Or pretending to. But it was real. Every breath it took seemed to pull the air from my lungs. My ears rang. My skin felt thinner just being near it. I tried to speak. But nothing came out. My brother turned to me. His eyes weren't there. Just dark, empty hollows. Still wet. And he smiled. The thing behind him twitched. Just once. But it was enough. The tunnel groaned. And behind me, the hoof prints I'd seen earlier began to fill with ash. I ran. Didn't think. Didn't breathe. Just bolted back into the tunnel, hands scraping against the wet stone, phone light swinging wildly. Behind me, something moved. Not quickly. Not like it was chasing me. Just, unfolding. Stretching. Like it was remembering it had a body. The tunnel walls felt tighter now. Hotter. Like I was running through a throat. Every breath tasted like metal and dust. I swear something touched the back of my neck, cold and long, like a finger made of bone. But I didn't stop. I threw myself back through the crawlspace, slammed the panel shut, and pressed all my weight against it like that would keep anything out. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. Like the house was listening. I didn't tell anyone. Not right away. I told myself it wasn't real. Maybe the gas furnace was leaking. Maybe I was too sleep-deprived. Maybe the symbols on my brother's back were just in my head. Until I saw them again. On me. Faint at first. Across my ribs. One near my collarbone. Like something had drawn them while I slept. They're darker now. And I don't sleep anymore. Neither does my brother. He just stands in the garage some nights, humming a song I don't recognize. Last night, I watched him from the hallway for nearly 10 minutes. Until I realized. I was already standing next to him. He turned and smiled at me. But so did the other one. And now. Now I don't know which one of us came back up from the tunnel. Story 3. My mom swears she tucked me in last night. I live alone. I'm looking for advice. I just don't know what kind I need. It all started about 3 weeks ago. It was a cold Monday when I got a call from my mom. We talk often enough, so hearing from her wasn't unusual. The only odd part was the timing. She called while I was at work. I'm a nurse, and she usually only reaches out during my shift if it's something urgent. So naturally, I braced myself for bad news, only to hear her familiar, gentle voice. She was casual. Sweet. Just asking how my day was going. Don't get me wrong, I love my mom, and I enjoy talking to her. But that day was hectic, and I tried to politely wrap things up and get back to work. Right before I hung up, she said something strange. Something that made me pause. "I'm glad you're sleeping better. You looked so peaceful." At first, I thought I'd misheard. I'm in my 20s. I've lived alone for nearly 7 years now. And my mom lives over 200 miles away. I brushed it off. Maybe it was a figure of speech or just one of those "mom" comments. But as the day went on, it kept bothering me. That evening, I called her back. She was just as cheerful as earlier, like nothing was out of the ordinary. But I couldn't shake what she'd said, so I asked her, directly, what she meant. And she said it again. With the same light tone. "Well, you've been tossing and turning. I was just happy to see you sleeping peacefully last night." I froze. I asked if she was joking. She didn't laugh. She sounded confused, like she didn't understand why I was questioning her. Then she said, just as naturally, "I tucked you in last night." I didn't want to argue with her. My mom's not young, and we do have a family history of cognitive decline. I started to wonder if this was something serious. So I changed the subject, asked about her day, and ended what was, all things considered, a fairly normal conversation. Then I texted my brother, he lives in the same town as her, and asked him to check in on her, just in case. That's when things really started to shift. Small things at first. Barely noticeable. Like the chair at the head of the dining table being pulled out. I was pretty sure I had tucked it in. But hey, maybe I forgot. Or my bed being made, even though I hadn't touched it. Not just pulled up. Tucked. Folded under the mattress. Exactly the way my mom used to do it when I was a kid. I called my brother again. I asked if mom had come by my place somehow, maybe as a prank. It didn't feel like her, but I was out of explanations. He told me she was home. He'd just had tea with her. Since then, things have only gotten worse. At night, I hear footsteps. Light ones. Quick. But every time I get up to check, there's nothing. No one. I started doubting myself. Maybe it was the building settling. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe I'm just tired. But then, a few nights ago, I woke up around 3 a.m. There was humming. Very faint. Almost too soft to catch. But I knew the tune immediately. It was the lullaby my mom used to hum to me when I had nightmares. And it was coming from my bedroom doorway. I couldn't look. I don't know why. I just couldn't. I shut my eyes and lay still under the covers, barely daring to breathe. Eventually, the sound faded. When I finally reached for the light and turned it on, the room was empty. But the closet door, which I always leave open, was closed. I've kept calling her during the day. But it's always the same. She either acts like none of it happened, or she changes the subject and rambles like nothing's wrong. I even recorded our last conversation, thinking maybe I could catch something, some hint, some slip, something in her voice that would make sense of what was happening. But when I played it back, the audio was crystal clear. Too clear. There was no background noise at all. No ambient hum, no shuffling, no clink of her spoon in her teacup like there always is. Just her voice, bright, cheerful, telling me she was proud of me. That I looked so calm now. I never told her I was recording. But right before the call ended, she said, "You should stop doing that. It's not polite." That's when the paranoia really set in. I don't sleep in my bed anymore. I've started sleeping on the couch instead. But somehow, without fail, I keep waking up in my bed, neatly tucked under the covers. Last night, I forced myself to stay awake as long as I could. I was determined. If I could catch it, whatever it was, I could prove this wasn't all in my head. I don't remember falling asleep. But I remember waking up. And I remember the hand that pulled the blanket over me. It wasn't hers. It was colder. Thinner. The fingers were too long. And they didn't tremble, the way my mother's used to. When it touched my forehead, there was no warmth, just a strange kind of pressure, like it was memorizing me. I kept my eyes shut. I don't know why. I just knew, if I looked at it, it would look back. But somehow, I knew it already knew I was awake. It leaned closer. I felt the weight of it press into the mattress beside me, slow. Deliberate. The sound it made was low and sticky, like something pulling apart. Something brushed my cheek. Not fingers this time. Something softer. Frayed. Hair, maybe. But it smelled wrong. Like something left too long in the heat. Then it spoke. You don't cry anymore. Not like before. Its voice was trying to mimic hers, but it wasn't right. The words came out broken. Halting. Like someone reading them off a phonetic card. And underneath that voice, something else was breathing. Heavy. Labored. Eager. I opened my eyes. There was nothing there. But the blankets beside me were rising and falling, like someone unseen was still lying there. Mimicking my breath. The indent in the mattress was fresh. Deep. And on the pillow next to mine was a dark stain. It smelled like something earthy. Metallic. Wrong. I turned to the mirror across from my bed. And there it was. Sitting on the edge of the mattress. At first, I thought it was her. The hair looked the same length, same part down the middle. But it was patchy in places. Rough. Like straw. Clumped and wet in others. Some spots were missing hair altogether, showing pale, stretched skin beneath. Its head tilted to the side, jerky. Puppet-like. Then slowly, it began to turn. I didn't want to see. Every instinct screamed for me to look away. But I couldn't. The face that turned toward me was trying to be my mother's. It had her eyes, or something where her eyes should have been. But they were too wide. Clouded. Like glass marbles pressed into soft clay. The nose was sunken. Misshapen. And the mouth. The mouth stretched too far. Split at the corners, pulled into a smile. Not warm. Not familiar. Just, wrong. It was brushing its hand across the pillow beside me. Slow. Tender. Then it looked up. Not at the bed. At the mirror. At me. And it smiled. My heart slammed against my ribs. I backed away from the mirror, panicking, wanting to look away, but unable to. It tilted its head again. Curious. Almost playful. Then it raised one long, shaking arm. And waved. I turned away. Nothing was there. I looked back at the mirror. Gone. Just the bed. Rumpled. Still. Silent. I stood there for what felt like forever. Frozen. Barely breathing. Then my phone rang. It was my mom. Her voice was soft. Calm. Don't be scared, sweetheart, she said. We just miss you. If these stories got under your skin, like and subscribe. That's how the darkness spreads.